Yeah. Hey, do yo. Trophied up. Yeah. Hey, do yo. Trophied up. Do your dance when the G's up. Spaced out, got me geeked up. 10 toes on the west, cannot beat us. You cannot. Shining every time they meet us. Rack 'em up since 96. Been number one in LA, something slight, that's the gist.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Galaxy. Today I'm joined by two very, very fine gentlemen. And I think my mic is very far away now that I finally grabbed it. Andrew and Tab, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, happy to be back.
Oh, brother. We got some very interesting discussions today. Maybe we'll disagree a bit more than we have before on if this was a successful season or not. I know my takes maybe changed on that a little bit over time. But we're here. We are here now. And let's start with some miscellaneous kind of Galaxy news, but also relevant to the future of the club. Owen Pratt is featured for the youth national team numerous times. He's a staple in their squads every single year. LA Galaxy Academy product. He's featured for Ventura County numerous times this season. Was expected to take over the number one spot for Ventura next year. We ended up trading him to Chicago Fire. We traded his homegrown rights to the Chicago Fire. He's going to end up joining them next year, and then signing a homegrown contract, I believe, in 2027 as a Chicago Fire goalkeeper. They have a good talent ID, but this is a big loss. It might not affect us now. We still got the same three goalkeeper room with Mitrovic, JT Marcinkowski, and Brady Scott, but this will affect the future going forward. But I think he saw a lot more playing time elsewhere. But what are your guys' initial thoughts and reactions? We'll start with you, Tab.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, Chicago's got a good talent identifying group. We've seen numerous goalkeepers go through the Chicago Fire pipeline, and this could be another one. Obviously, they have Chris Brady in net right now, who's been on fire for them and been their starting keeper, and he's been promoted through the academy. And then it sucks for us. I mean, this kid's got promise. I remember going to some VCFC games, and bro's like 17 years old. He's probably like 6'4" or something. He's quite the tall guy. He didn't really get much minutes just because we have Brady Scott in net for VCFC. So he never got his time, and maybe that could bite us in the butt down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Andrew?
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what both of you guys said. It's just really the typical LA Galaxy Academy story. There's just too much talent in front of you that if you really want to develop, what you need is minutes. And when there's just so many good guys ahead of you, it's difficult to make that happen. And especially with these young guys, like Tab mentioned, he's 17. He's really in this key moment in terms of development right before he steps into, that adult stage of his life. He's got to maximize it. And the only way to do that is to play. So this is probably the biggest reason for this move to Chicago. Yeah, I mean, it's always a shame, especially for players. You could see that they have this great potential, but at the end of the day, what you want is for them to develop, like that comment from Gooch in the chat. But yeah, it's just, it's a shame. We see so many good players in this area, especially, SoCal, massive hub for soccer, lots of talent, especially at the LA Galaxy, biggest club, really, really famous for their development. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the best move for him, and I don't think there's going to be a shortage of talent coming up behind him.
Yeah, I agree. I think another goalkeeper in the academy is James Rhodes, who's also very good from what I've heard. But guys that are still way far away from being the starter, as was Owen Pratt. But I think I always thought and felt like he was going to be the next guy of the future, that maybe he would make us some big money going to Europe. I hope to God we got a sell-on clause from this, because wherever he goes next, I believe it's going to be Europe for a pretty big fee. And if he does go, we're going to be kicking ourselves. We're going to be kicking ourselves for not getting enough out of this deal if all we've done is just trade the homegrown rights. But more than an LA Galaxy thing, I think this was a personal decision. Mikey Steffens moved to Chicago. I'm sure he had a big part in this. He's overlooked all of the talent coming in and out of Ventura County and the youth academy. So I'm sure that he probably lured him over there. But I can't lie. Chicago has always had a really good talent ID for goalkeepers. Throughout the years, their development of them. If I'm him, I might be making the same move. they know how to find a good goalkeeper, and they know how to, nurture them in a way that gets them to be a starter and be ready for that MLS level and take the next move to Europe, and really be that launch pad where the Galaxy, like you talked about, Andrew, it's really difficult. It's very rare for an LA Galaxy Academy player to come up through the pipeline and make an impact. I mean, Harvard Miller's doing that right now. You saw Rajo do it, although he started with Barcelona, but you saw Rajo do it in the past. Some of these guys can be exceptions to it, but I think when you're a big Los Angeles club who likes to spend money on signings, like signing Novak Mitrovic, who's another young goalkeeper. I had a conversation with Josh in the COG Discord earlier. He's not very sure that Novak will be the guy going forward. The sense in the Galaxy front office is that Novak Mitrovic might not be the guy. In fact, some people in the front office rate JT Marcinkowski above him at this point, and could see JT as the starting goalkeeper next year. I know he started a lot of matches with San Jose. I'm not sure how I'd feel about that move. Well, I guess time will have to let it play out. But we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see how it develops throughout time. But best of luck to Owen Pratt and his move to Chicago Fire. Wish him nothing but the best. But we got another big topic here, guys. Some big piece of breaking news, actually. Angel City Brigade and Galaxy Outlaws came to an agreement with the front office over a return to the stadium, starting at last match versus Orlando City. We can talk about that match. So many factors played into that attendance. It looked like a preseason match out there, but that's besides the point. A lot of factors played into that. We have our supporters groups back. The heartbeat of the club, every single supporters group is back, which is so important to the atmosphere in these games. People can pretend like it's not, but it really is. And I'm really glad to see a resolution reached. So yeah, you guys, Tab?
Yeah,
Take it
also
away.
it's good we had 2 of the 4 back for the past like a month or so. Now we got 4 out of 4 back, so it's good to see. Obviously, they are the heart of this club. You hear them every game, and we've been missing them the whole season. Practically, we've been without them, and you can tell the energy is a bit lower from the team because it translates from the fans to the players. I think you can tell pretty obviously. We've seen games where it's electric. Um, just last season was completely different. I think because the attendance was a lot higher. If the players feed off them. A prime example that could be the LA Galaxy match last season, where once they hit that banger, it was all Galaxy, all the motivation, everything's going towards the Galaxy. So once the fans get behind the players, that's when the Galaxy's at their best. So it's good to have all 4 back.
Absolutely. Andrew, your take on this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Tab there. I've had the chance to speak with Vanney, the players, on that, and they pretty much echo that. They definitely notice it whenever the attendances are lower, and they notice it when the fans are there behind them. Last year was just, it was special. Besides the results and everything, but the turnout every single game I felt like was electric. And that probably definitely I would say played a part in the results that we had last year. This year, the performances aren't there, the fans aren't there, and so the performances continue to not be there. It's kind of this self-fulfilling cycle that happens, unfortunately. But it's great to see them back. We talked about it a little bit. I believe it was last Thursday with our Clash of Cosmo Boys, another podcast you guys should check out. But when the fans are there, it's really about. It just sets a lot of other things in motion, and there's not a lot to fight for. You could argue in terms of the league, things like that, but just to have that resolved, I think is another thing to get past, which is the first step to improving, to making these big steps for 2026. To have them back, it's I would say a pretty big step towards that. I see some comments in the chat, and people asking for some clarification on what the actual agreement is. And from the statement that ACB and Outlaws made, there's been discussions with the front office for months now, pretty much since April when all of this started. And the biggest thing for the supporter groups was that they didn't feel supported, safe. The club as a whole, but especially the supporter groups, it's made up by immigrants, made up by their descendants. And with everything going on in California, a lot of people just genuinely didn't feel safe coming to the stadiums. So they wanted the club to sort of say something or put some, agreement into effect with, the local police, ICE in the city, whatever it may be. But they wanted some guarantee that if these fans do, stick their necks out and come out to these games to support, the club is going to have some method of protecting them. And it seems like we've sort of come to that agreement. Apparently, the club and the NECB would be making a statement. We haven't seen that yet, but that's a major part of that resolution. So it's really about safety of the fans. Nobody wants to go to a soccer game and get deported. That's, a nightmare situation. So to see that the club is, maybe change its perspective a little bit on that and actually, meeting these biggest fans in the middle in terms of something that should be a bit basic, maybe depending on where you stand. But, big thing. So nice to see the club, taking those strides. It's definitely important. I remember early on in the season, I saw when all of this was really at its highest, Tim Braun walking around, going from supporter group to supporter group and talking with the fans. He spent, I don't know how long, but he went to like each and every tailgate, spoke to people and asked for their opinions. And, that's something super valuable. You want to see action and we want to, feel cared for as a fan. So to see, the Galaxy leadership going out, taking the time to speak to fans was a big part. And yeah, so it's just really important stuff that's been done. I hope to see more and more fans maybe towards the end of the year or into next season, but super important that this was resolved. So really happy to see that.
Yeah. And I think it has to be stated. Well, first of all, I got a lot of things to say on this, but for some people, they still feel like the club has lost their trust enough to cancel their season tickets. That doesn't mean those people won't be showing up to games. Single game tickets are definitely probably even more cheaper option. But, season ticket members, just generally, maybe this is a little off topic, but I think the consensus among a lot of people that I've talked to is the fact that season ticket memberships aren't as special as they used to be. I think that's another thing that maybe the fan council can talk with the FO about, is maybe more perks and incentives. I mean, it's cool. You get to meet the players once a year at an open training, and that's great. But other than that, there's not a lot of incentive for some of these season ticket members to be holding on to those, especially when the club, they felt that the club didn't have their back. It was more so the final dagger than the main cause. It's just kind of been a reflection of how being a season ticket member has maybe declined for these people over time. So I definitely understand why a lot of people have canceled their season ticket members, but I'm sure a lot of those people still show up to games on occasion. It's just, a lot more affordable and practical most of the time to end up, still being season to cancel your season tickets and have less commitment to it. I've seen a lot of a lot of bad takes on this. I'm not trying to make it a political argument. It's honestly a bit crazy to me that people are more upset. I'm not going to take credit for this, but I saw it somewhere online that people are more upset about, Angel City Brigade. More people are upset at Angel City Brigade and Outlaws than they are at this team for being in its worst season in club history. And I think it's accurate. A lot of people kind of need to look in the mirror and realize that, hey, maybe we need to redirect some of our frustrations and come together as a fan base together. And, now we could rally behind this team. It's something to celebrate. However you fall on if you felt it was the right move or not for Angel City Brigade to do this or not. This team's last place. They're probably going to beat the 2017 record for the least amount of points in Galaxy history. This is the worst season in franchise history. There's no sugarcoating it. No Leagues Cup campaign now can even save that. In my opinion, at least. Where are our frustrations at? Is it at Angel City Brigade, or should it be at this franchise and organization that is last place in Major League Soccer after winning MLS Cup in 2024? And anybody saying that the atmosphere or the players do better, when I saw this take that the players do better when ACB and Outlaws aren't there. Well, first of all, as you were talking about, Andrew, that's clearly not reflected by the players or coaching staff. So, maybe you could go to the primary source that's telling you that's not the case. But just to source it out a bit more, look at that 2024 playoff atmosphere for a second. That was beyond anything I've ever seen from a live sporting event in my life. It was rocking every single game, from the Colorado Rapids playoff opener to MLS Cup final. Every game at Dignity Health Sports Park was absolutely rocking, and that team fed off of it. It was Showtime Galaxy, and they wanted to put on a show for the fans because they felt that energy in the stadium. So anybody who says that, we do better without the fans, it's just a really, really bad take in my opinion. But there is definitely a lot of everybody can have their opinion. Everybody has to have an opinion, and that's fine, and everybody should have an opinion on it. But I just think overall we should kind of redirect our focus more towards just now coming together as a fan base and enjoying the atmosphere being back. Because I'll tell you, I've been in Angel City Brigade. I haven't been chanting during the protest, but I've been in Angel City Brigade. It's dead. It's dead all around the stadium. Everybody who came back after the protest, that was their own decision and choice. But it's very reflective that the atmosphere is significantly better when Angel City Brigade is there. And I'm glad that they reached an agreement with the front office. So any last thoughts on this, Tab?
I think we got it all. Obviously, they're back, and hope they have a better atmosphere for the games coming up. I think we have like 5 home games left in the season.
Yeah, 5.
Something like that. Yeah. So I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Andrew, any last thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it's great that we're back. We want the team to be back, I think, first of all. But again, just reiterating the fact that we're coming to agreements that the club is, starting to take these fans, their arguments seriously. Maybe it took, a couple of months for us to see any type of action. Again, we still haven't seen that statement. They are definitely taking their time a bit on this. But the fact that these conversations have been going out for months, that the front office has been out there with the fans, speaking with them, hearing their input, all this stuff is valuable. And, hopefully we can get back to 2024, the 2024 vibe. One last thing I wanted to mention, really, really interesting how, the dynamic within the fans outside of the supporter groups is, especially considering that this is like a year and a half, 2 years removed from the 2023 boycotts, which essentially, got us Wilkuns and got us that 2024 title. All of that is due to the supporter groups. You can say what you will about ACB. Absolutely. There's definitely a lot to be said there. But at the end of the day, it was the SGs that saved the club and set the ball rolling to get us that title. And we're essentially sticking to our values. Nothing's changed. It's the same people in charge. And, they're standing up for their supporters, the fans, and at the end of the day, the club. So, at the end of the day, I commend them. I'm an Outlaws member myself. When I'm in the stands, I love to be in V block chanting there. So I really, really value what they do. And yeah, just looking forward to hopefully things improving from here on out.
Yeah, and I hope so. I think the relationship between the front office and the fans got a lot better after 2023 and the Klein protest. That's why, maybe this escalating to what it did seemed like it was a bit mind-boggling. But I will say that knowing people in these supporters groups who are actually tapped in more than I am, way more than I am, I don't think they would be doing this. I don't think they would be, protesting if they didn't feel like it was the best way to come to a negotiation with the club. Let's be very clear on that. If there was a better way without doing that, these people bleed blue, white, and gold. They bleed the club. They love chanting for 90 minutes. They're the people who pour their time and souls. They help make tifos. They're out there in the community with, I know all the supporters groups have their own events and fundraising stuff that they do. They're out there in the community. They're putting in their part to make this club better. These people are passionate. These people are not fake fans for not showing up. They care about the club so much that they know that the only thing they can do to get to them is make a statement that can't be ignored. Because that's what it really comes down to, is what hurts their pockets and what can be ignored or what can't be ignored. And I believe this is one of those things there. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see the supporters groups come back. Another just off take that I saw was the fact that after this came before the semifinal match against the Seattle Sounders. It was like right before the match when this first broke that they were making headway. A lot of people are like, oh, they're just doing that now because we won. As you're talking about, they were in negotiation since April. And I know that for a fact. So anybody out there saying that, oh, they just came to the negotiation table and bent over for the front office is just not the case. a lot of misinformation out there. People can believe what they're going to believe, and nothing I could say will change their mind, and that's fine. Everyone has an opinion, but I just think now is the time for everybody to just be grateful that the supporter groups are back and the atmosphere is back, and hopefully 2026 is a better year. Let's not keep animosity boiled over years over this situation, and hope that going forward this doesn't have to be the case, and that the front office and supporters groups can have a healthier relationship with its fan base. And I'm glad they came to a conclusion. Maybe you'll see a statement here. Shifting focus here, shifting focus to the LA Galaxy versus Seattle Sounders game. The LA Galaxy fell 2-0 to the Seattle Sounders in the League's Cup semifinal match. This was the punch a ticket to the final rematch of the 2024 MLS Western Conference final, although our team looks so much different from then. Seattle did their little victory lap after this game on social media. I saw a good TikTok they posted out there just rubbing it in. Fair enough. Fair enough, but they would gladly trade that League's Cup game for the Western Conference final, and everybody knows that. First goal came in the 7th minute by Pedro de la Vega. He's seemed to come around all of a sudden for Seattle after all the injuries that he's faced in his career. And then out of the second half, Di Rosario in the 57th minute. Nuhu, red card in the 83rd minute on Gabriel Pek. Crunching tackle. I've seen Seattle fans say that there's no contact, and I think that you need contacts, you need classes if you think that was no contact, because you're out your mind. Absolutely a red card, and in fact probably could have been a multi-game suspension. And in all honesty, it was a horror tackle, and we are very lucky. I saw Gabriel Pek's leg was all torn up from the tackle. We are incredibly lucky that Gabriel Pek is not out for an extended period of time due to that horror tackle. So besides that, Galaxy fall 2-0 to the Seattle Sounders. Tab, take it away.
Yeah, I was at this game. Obviously, Seattle is just Mel's better team right now. We saw that in this game. We also saw it in the final. They might be the top contenders for the MLS Cup. And some games you can hold your hands up and just say, this team is better than us.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those games. Their team, the players, the coach, I mean, they got spot on right now. They're free flowing out ever since the Club World Cup. And yeah, I mean, Galaxy didn't play bad, but we didn't play good. There wasn't really an attacking threat, but also it could just be because Seattle's defense is so good. Two silly mistakes on our end. The first one coming from Cuevas and Mikovic, a little miscommunication for who's going to the ball, and it falls out to De La Vega, and he just slots it in. The second one, it's off a long throw, I believe, from around the corner kick area. Yeah. De Rosario flicks it over Zonka like he's a traffic cone and just slots it in. It's sad because if those two mistakes didn't happen, obviously they had other chances, but like we could have been 0-0 and maybe one goal or one strike goes our way. Fagundes had a really good shot in the first half, and Andrew Thomas made a great save. So who knows? That game could have been swayed in the other direction. And Greg Vanney's talked about this in the press conference that in these games, you can't make mistakes. And we made 2 mistakes and they punished us for it. So in these tough games, semifinals, finals, teams against these quality players, they come down to minor details, and Seattle beat us on the night.
Yeah, Andrew?
Yeah, I was extremely disappointed with that performance as a whole, especially after, we had gone on a little bit of a streak right before that. There was a really complete, really good performance against Pachuca in the quarterfinal to even get us there. I saw a lot of fire, a lot of energy, just, that bite. There was those moments with Marco Reus, with Fagundes, just, getting stuck in and giving it to the Pachuca players every time they, try to say something, they try to make a bad tackle. And typically the Galaxy this season, when the pressure and other teams bring the pressure to them, they've tended to crumble. They've tended to sort of just fall back, and they've lost a lot of games that way, but they responded to the demands in that Pachuca game. And then that carried over to that game in Colorado, really great 3-0 win. You just felt like all these positive signs are there. And then we get into that semifinal and we just fall completely flat. No pressure, I felt, no energy. It was just no bite at the end of the day. It felt like they didn't want to be there. It was repeating those sins from earlier on in the season where they're just not showing up when they really need to. And to do that when it's essentially your MLS Cup final is, I felt was disgraceful. Those goals at the beginning, I could talk a lot about that. Paul Rothrock, after the shot from De La Vega, Mikovic makes that save, obviously. But Paul Rothrock and Julie Aude are essentially in very similar positions. But the only difference is that Julie Aude is slowing down. He's jogging as if the play is over. And Rothrock is sprinting at the ball, trying to create havoc, and eventually creates that goal. The entire Galaxy backline in that sequence had stopped as if Mikovic had made a catch when the play was totally alive. And that's just something I don't understand at all. Yeah, you just got to react. You play till the whistle. You play till the play is dead. And they just didn't. And for that to happen, that was the 5th, 6th minute, I thought that was ridiculous. It's not like they were tired or anything. They just weren't switched on. And then Sanka, again, for the second goal, just, letting himself get bullied there. He's sticking out his leg as if, I've played ASO, U12 with people who are playing soccer for the first time. You see them kind of kick the ball just like that with their hands up. And it's just an awful, awful swing and a miss, no type of pressure. He's this big guy. You think his physicality is one of his strong suits, and you just didn't see it at all there. It's, just throughout the pitch, you felt like the team didn't show up. And so that to me was disappointing. I feel like we got bailed off a little bit in a way with how this Orlando game went, and that we did end up getting that CCC spot. Because, again, like at the end of the day, that game was our final. That game was the chance to do that, to win a trophy. But to not show up was just, again, I repeat myself, shameful. So glad they, showed up again with that energy here in Orlando. But that Seattle game was a frustrating watch for me. I hated, having to watch it back. It felt, I felt pretty masochistic. Just, it sucked.
Yeah.
So, bad one to see. Sure.
I was in the chat for the LA Galaxy. I totally agree with you. That got real frustrating. The moment that kind of stuck out for me was the final 10 minutes. I genuinely almost just left right then and there because it was just crossing simulator. Now think for a second. We can all think. What's the easiest thing that the Seattle Sounders, a team that are much more physically dominant than the LA Galaxy, are going to be able to defend? It's gonna be the aerial battles. It's gonna be the aerial duels. And all we did was just spam cross to Christian Ramirez, and it fell short every single time. They just dealt with it because Seattle are such a good defensive team. It was never gonna bother them. It was like flicking their shoulder. It was never gonna knock them out. And the Galaxy really, even after the red card, didn't look threatening to score at all. And I would have liked to see them be a lot more aggressive. I know the red card kind of came in late there. But I would like to see them build the ball into the box, work it in a bit more. And they didn't. They just forced crosses and they were spamming it. And man, my head was on Mars. My head was absolutely on Mars. I was sick. I was sick of the crossing over and over and over and over. The first goal, I looked back at it. I do think Novak Mitrovic is definitely part to blame on it. But man, he was standing on his head. He was standing on his head even initially. I know it trickled out, but it came off of like a double save, I believe it was. And he was making saves all night, and he's just one of those guys. There was times that game where he kept us in it. There was a one-on-one Seattle had, and he just absolutely made almost like an Emi Martinez save in the Argentina World Cup final. He just absolutely wonder save that Novak Mitrovic made, and it still falls short. It still falls short because you make that one mistake, and like Tab was talking about, in a game where the margins are so thin against a team that will punish you, it was going to happen. It was bound to happen, and the Galaxy were looking to lose that game. Basically, it felt like they came out lethargic from minute one. Nascimento being out, I think, hurt us a lot. He was out for the third place game as well. It seems like that injury is being a little more serious than the Galaxy imagined it to be. Amiro Garces, his injury has been lingering over. I saw Tab posted on his Instagram a quote from Greg Vanney about Amiro Garces saying that he wasn't close to 100% for that Orlando game. Any other game, and he doesn't play. He doesn't play, but he's a warrior, and he wanted to play that match because he knew how much it meant to our fan base. and they wanted to give something for the fans this season, and a CONCACAF spot will do. It will absolutely do, to get ourselves back in that competition. That's not the game we're focusing on now, but it was just frustration. It was absolute frustration. We didn't look dangerous at all, besides the, like you talked about, the shot that Thomas just makes a wonder save on. I can't believe he kept that out. The Galaxy are a team that needs to score first, and not even just saying that in a simple way of, oh, you got to score first, duh. But this team feeds off of it. Our entire playing style feeds off of being the team that has the upper hand as early as we can get it, really. And going down in the 7th minute, it really put us in a hole. The Fagundes shot, if that would have went in, it would have completely changed the dynamic of that game. I don't know if we lose it, but we don't live in that universe. If my nan had wheels, she'd have been a bike. And the Galaxy are gonna, they had to face the fact that they missed out on their MLS Cup, basically. The League's Cup finals, all we had left to play this year. Marco Reus talked about it in the pregame press conference. He's like, I live for these type of games. Even he wasn't really that dangerous today, or on the day. So it was just really disappointing, and you thought that they would have got up for this match more than they did. But sometimes you got to throw your hands up and just be like, hey, there's a gap between the Galaxy and Seattle. There is a clear and obvious gap. There's things that could have changed the trajectory of this game, but ultimately they're the better team. Everyone knows that. They look like MLS Cup contenders. I would be very surprised if they weren't at least in the conference final this season out of the West. They have that juice. It's after the Club World Cup, they've really, really picked it up and looked to be a dangerous team. Interesting conversation, despite all the injuries that they faced. And man, they have a whole lot of, they maybe have like, I don't know, 6-7 people out for this game. 6-7 people out for this game. And they still managed to adapt. To it. Where's the excuse at for the Galaxy? Do you think injuries are as big of an excuse as it seems to be when a team like Seattle is coming into our home ground and destroying us at home up 4-0 the first time, and then defeating us in what's our MLS Cup final 2-0? Does that not speak to maybe our lack of adaptation to some of the injuries that we faced? I mean, you can't understate how big of a miss Ricky is, but Tab, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just Seattle has a better squad. You've seen their depth pieces. They have academy kids coming up. I think they might have the best academy coming up into the first team. They got players. Let's see, Rothrock was an academy player. Their right back's academy player, Baker Whiting. Andrew Thomas came through academy, I'm pretty sure. I mean, basically their whole B team might be better than our A team this season.
Yeah.
So they got it all right. I can't say a bad word about Seattle right now. I don't act like I'm just talking about Seattle right now, but the Galaxy, they just don't have that depth right now. Maybe next season we will. We have a ton of cap space open. We got Ricky back. We'll see what happens. But I think right now, the only thing you can say about this game is Seattle's a better team on the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew?
Injuries. Yeah, totally agree with Tab there. It just comes down to the squad depth, and if you're looking for fingers to point in that regard, it's Kuntz, it's Greg Vanney in terms of scouting, recruiting, maybe how we allocate our funds, and to sort of bring things back a little bit into perspective. When Greg Vanney first joined 2021, he essentially had to build the LA Galaxy Academy. They didn't have video reviews. They weren't able to look at footage. They didn't have a space to do that. There was just so much that they didn't have. And Greg Vanney had to build all of that from scratch. That's one of the things I give him massive credit for, in those 2021, 2023, definitely our banter era. But he just did so much work behind the scenes that we didn't see into the first team that is, going to set us up in the next 10, 15, 20 years to get into a position like Seattle. And, I do feel like the team is building on that. We talk about how good Seattle are, throughout their roster. A lot of that is thanks to their recruiting besides, the academy. And this season, we went ahead and picked up Seattle's scouting technician, essentially. He's the one who revolutionized scouting in the MLS. Raminemi. It's a little bit of a long last name, but, we picked him up from Seattle. We poached him. And if we're talking about emulating that profile, what Seattle success, that's one of the best ways to do it, is to steal their scouting guy. So, again, it's looking towards the future. And when, again, just 4 years ago, we were at ground zero and we have to build something and to compete with these teams who have been doing it since pretty much they joined the league. It's, it's a tall order, but I feel like the team is doing the right things in the background to get to that point. But, 4 years on, we're just not there quite yet. I do feel like we can get there, but it's a process. Things take time, but, to steal this quote from Philadelphia, you got to trust the process. And at the end of the day, this is going to be controversial. I trust Vanney. I trust Kuntz. I feel like they've done just about enough to earn my trust.
Yeah.
When things are going their way, at least. But yeah, I think it's really just about the future. I talked about this, the first time I came on. I'm looking at 2026. I'm looking at number 7, probably in 27. So we're just setting up those pieces to go ahead and kill it and hopefully stay killing it in the future. But it takes time.
Yeah. And you need your battery right
There's
there.
not a battery in there, dude. I spent weeks trying to sort that out. I have no clue what to do. But there's no battery in there. I can't figure out how to turn it off, and I don't want to unplug the whole thing. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. I was just playing with you. Yeah, I think the Galaxy need to, I had a conversation with my dad the other day. I was telling him, I mean, as cool as it was for the Galaxy to win MLS Cup last year and have this great revolutionary turnaround, really out of the ashes, go all in, put all the chips on the table, sacrifice this season. As great as that was, because it worked out, it's not sustainable. That's not how you build a sustainable football club. And ultimately, it's going to catch up on you. In fact, it was a major gamble last year because if we would have managed, if Ricky had to come out of that game against Seattle, you can make up all these sorts of things. Forsberg doesn't hit the post. Who knows? The Galaxy, it takes a lot of luck to be MLS Cup champions. Nothing's ever guaranteed. If that gamble did not pay out, this season would be just the nail in the coffin of how embarrassing the Galaxy have been the past, 11 or 10 plus years at this point. But it didn't work out that way because we ended up winning MLS Cup, and that's great. But it's time to start building consistency. That's what I want to see more than anything. Like you talked about, squad depth, it's lacking. It's real lacking. And it's time for the Galaxy to start building that. It's time to build squad depth. It's time going forward to make sure that this club is built in a sustainable way. And yeah, hopefully that Seattle guy, Ravi or whatever, hopefully he could help us reach that goal and destination, because we can't go in every season. We can't have, we can't be really good one year, really bad the next. It will catch up on us. And if we could be another Seattle-like team to consistently stay in the top 4 and contend every single year, the only knock I'll give on Seattle is that now they've kind of turned it over, but it got a little stale at a point because they wouldn't turn over their older core. But if the Galaxy can kind of maybe learn from some of those mistakes and build a more sustainable club on top of it, I think we would greatly benefit from it. So that's what I want to see. We got a question in the chat. Would the season have been different if Nascimento was in the starting 11 after coming back from injury? I'll let Tab start on this. Go ahead.
So the question is asking if Nascimento started from the start, would the season be different?
Yeah.
Is that what it's saying? Gotcha. I think so. I think obviously Nascimento came in maybe like a quarter of the way through the season, and you could see that the team is quite a lot different from the first half to the last half. Ramirez was starting up top, whole different dynamic. You saw a lot more crosses come into Ramirez as he's more of an aerial target. And with Nascimento, you see a little bit more build-up. You see players playing off of him. You see Reus underneath. And I think there's just a better understanding with Nascimento on the field. So I think if Nascimento was fully fit and in the form that he was in maybe before he got injured, I think we could be in playoff position right now. But it just didn't happen to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. Andrew?
I'm not sure if he alone would have been, the turning point, but definitely agree with Tab there. When he came in, there was this stat, he had an 80-something win percentage or point possession, being undefeated when he starts, and that's massive. Had the chance to speak with him during one of his first interviews, post-game press conferences, And he pretty much just stated, I think, what Tad said, is that he's a perfect, I think, Vanney striker in terms of enjoying build-up and having this football IQ, knowing when to drop in and how to distribute to advance to play in general. He's not necessarily someone who lives in the box, waits for the ball, more like Christian. He, is a lot more of a false nine. He likes to drop in and associate with everybody. He likes quick touches, and that's Vanney ball to a T. When we think of who he's coming in to replace, Dejan Joveljic, when he really hit his Galaxy prime is when he started to pick up when he was technically able to participate in the build-up. Those first couple of years, to take the Spanish phrase, I thought he was a tronco, just like a tree trunk. The ball would come to him and bounce off, and the play would die. But once he started, to get more techie and be able to control the ball, put out a good pass, get involved in the play, we saw a whole different version of Dejan Joveljic, but that did take him a good 3 years. Whereas Nascimento, he came in and immediately he has that. He's, around the same age, but he's only going to get better. So I'm super, super high on him. I don't know if we'd be in a playoff position. I feel like we'd be closer if he started early on, but I mean, there are so many other injuries at the beginning of the year. So I'm not sure. I really don't think it would be too different, but to see him, integrate more into the team, I feel like it would have been better. But again, just super, super high on Nascimento. I think he's a perfect Galaxy striker, and I'm going to be really disappointed if we don't end up signing him on a permanent basis.
Look, I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. If my nan had wheels, she would have been a bike. We'll never know. We will truly never know. But I think people discredit Christian Ramirez's start of the season. I mean, the guy's, I believe, one off of being our top MLS goal scorer right now. And the last match he started was maybe May. Look, if he was in, like Andrew was talking about, if he was in the form that he started in when he first picked up steam for the Galaxy as a starter, then yeah, maybe. But I will say, I think he needed time to build into the system. I trust Greg Vanney enough as a head coach to know that whatever he's seeing on the training field every day is going to dictate who should be starting. And, I will say maybe he took a little too long on Julian Ade starting over John Nelson, and maybe Cuevas' decline could have been, or not Cuevas' rise and Yamane's decline could have been seen by him a bit earlier in these games, and maybe you could have pulled the trigger. It's 2020 hindsight. I trust him enough, though, that I don't think Nascimento is built enough into the system of the LA Galaxy by that point. And I think when he became the starter, was probably the right time, was probably the right time. But if he would have picked up the form where, what he was when he first became the starter and kind of how he's been cooking ever since, maybe. But I think there's a lot bigger issues with this LA Galaxy team than the striker position. And honestly, I think people are a little hard on Christian Ramirez. I'm a bit surprised that he's behind Miguel Berry. Maybe I'll say that. I don't know if there's anything going on behind the scenes regarding that, but I think that's a bit of a woke nonsense. So we got a side question. Why do you have a Juventus kit if you're a Liverpool fan? Look, this kit's fire. This kit's absolutely fire. You got the little lightning. You got the lightning on the Jeep. I like this kit. It's not about me supporting Juventus or not. I don't support Juventus. But Tab, you're itching to say something. What?
Was that a Burlington pickup? I swear I've seen
not.
shirts at Burlington.
I went to the soccer store in Orange County, and they had all sorts of selection, and I was like, "Yo, this is heat." So I definitely picked it up from there. But look. Mind your business, guys. I have like 50 jerseys in my closet. Okay, not all of them are just Galaxy and Liverpool and like Leverkusen, guys. Okay, whatever.
Man City as well, no? You got a Man City.
Yeah, City, but they're not rivals of Liverpool. I don't have a United kit, and it's Retro City. Let's be very, very clear here. It's a Retro City, not that oil club with 115 charges. Not that club. It's Retro City when they're respectable. Anyway. Anyway, would y'all be cool with signing Marc-Andre ter Stegen? We're gonna ignore that nickname there. Would y'all be cool with signing ter Stegen? No, but Tab, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, being the Barca fan in here, I'm saying no. I think that guy, he's been great for Barca. Obviously, club captain, just fantastic over the years. Been consistently just that guy for the Barca in the net. But I just don't think Emma's not suited for DP goalkeepers. I think if we were to bring him in, he'd have to be a DP. You've seen what's it called? St. Louis, they have Berkey as a DP, and it worked out for a season. And then ever since then, they've been wood and spoon racing for the rest of the seasons. And
Yeah,
I just don't think MLS is built on DP goalkeepers. So, no, I don't think we should sign him.
Andrew.
Yeah, I think Tab hit the nail on the head there. Just when you look at the Galaxy, especially, I feel like there's areas that would be more impactful. Yeah, I mean, just to talk about that Mikovic conversation a little bit. The plan, I feel like definitely from the beginning was to sell him on. He wasn't, essentially the long-term vision as our number one. We think we invested a little bit over $1 million on him to get him in. And it felt like that was this plan at the beginning of the year. There was a lot of controversy about why Mikovic started in net over J-Mac when he had just won us the MLS Cup. And I felt like the sensation I got was that it was to give him a time to show his potential and get a high bid from another club to, go ahead and get an ROI or some return on that investment and reinvest that in other areas of the pitch. When you see JT Marcinkowski, definitely, another MLS proven keeper. Brady Scott, we do have some other options there behind him. So, interesting conversation. Again, I just don't think we need it. We probably need the DP spot in other areas. And yeah, just to reiterate what Tab said, I think he said it perfectly. It doesn't really make too much sense for me.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking, even on a high TAM salary, that spot doesn't need to be on a goalkeeper. By the way, he would never be high TAM, but even if he was, that spot shouldn't go to an aging goalkeeper who is looking a little past Ter statue. Is looking a little past his prime right now. So sorry.
No. He's definitely digressed in the past couple of years, but yeah, I've seen those names. I've called him that a couple times, so I'll have to admit, it's quite the nickname. But yeah, I saw someone earlier in the chat saying we should sign on it, and no, Pratt
No.
man, is that what Mark Goldrich calls him?
No, Pratt man.
That guy might be the worst goalkeeper I've ever seen in the Premier League.
I'd rather have a concrete what in net. Anyway, we got a question about would you consider Atuesta a good option to help Sarria in the midfield? Look, I'm gonna let my pride get in the way here and say that guy's a Pratt. I can't stand that little Pratt. That's Pratt man right there. He's an absolute. Oh, I would do his head in right now. I can't stand him. I cannot stand Atuesta. I don't feel like I should be able to comment on this. That dive that he did earlier this season, just icing on the cake of being a Leva. So, Tab, maybe you could have a little clear-headed analysis on this.
I mean, the guy's a baller, but I just don't think he fits in not the system, but I don't think he would fit in with the Galaxy. Obviously, he had 2 spells at the Noisy Neighbors. I think he's LAFC at heart, and I don't think he would even think of coming here, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, maybe another controversial take, but I don't think we need it. It's sort of similar to my argument about Ter Stegen. It's just I feel like we need more help in other areas of the pitch. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about Orlando later on, but just to sort of sprinkle in what I plan on saying later on, I felt like the midfield was a really, really big part of why we did succeed in that game. We have Elijah Winder there who's really starting to emerge with the minutes he's getting. Surreal, I feel like, has grown leaps and bounds in the season. He's really becoming a leader in that midfield. If we do talk about the Orlando game, I'm going to dive deeper into that. But we have options. Sanabria, again, it was a bit of a controversial take there. I mean, he has had a difficult season. But I think when we're talking about planning for next season, I feel like he's probably going to improve, be more of a spot, and I don't see the need for someone like Atuesta.
He had some interesting reaction when Sanabria came out of his mouth. Speak on Sanabria. I thought he had a decent game against Orlando. I
think he had 100% pass accuracy. I was looking at that earlier.
It was one of the games he's played for sure. It was one of the games.
Help set up
I
that goal for Pacey, for
I need
JT,
to
the winner.
I need to protect my peace and not talk about him. We do need an 8, in my opinion, a starting 8, because I don't think he's that guy. And I think more depth in that position. Maybe I disagree with Andrew a little bit. I think more depth in the midfield, I would welcome it, because I'm not putting all my eggs in the Sanabria basket. But I think we all know why. Just getting
For sure, but I agree with you also. It needs to be an 8, not like an Atuesta profile.
Yeah, that's true.
Profile
That's
doesn't
true.
make sense.
Yeah. Give me an 8 though. Give me a starting 8 for us, and I will be very happy about a midfield of Cerrillo. I think Reus retires. I don't know. I'll call it now. I think Marco Reus retires. I saw some Vancouver fans saying, "Should we sign Marco Reus as a DP?" You can have him. I love Marco Reus. But if you could clear that salary for an aging and injury-prone Marco Reus, who I will give him credit, he's played a lot this year. I'm not discrediting him or his performances, but I'm not sure he's reliable next year on that salary. So, that you could have him in Vancouver, but that's not an actual rumor. Last question here. I thought this was an actual interesting one, if I could actually find it right now. Let me see. Well, just give me a one-word answer here. Mourinho, Ten Hag, or Big Ange? I'm gonna go Ange.
Go Greg Vanney.
Yeah, I was gonna say Vanney too. You read my mind there. I don't want any of them.
Okay, yeah. I like hoofball. Whatever.
Paid in.
Anyway, we got an actual really good question here. At what point do we realize that Vanney shouldn't have a job if he needs Ricky Puig so bad, if he's that reliant on him? So Tab, go ahead.
I think that Vanney, yes, he does rely on Ricky Puig, but also when you're missing your star player and you can't sign a replacement, obviously you're going to do a lot worse when you do have him or when you don't have him. So I think you can't criticize him, but you have to take it with a grain of salt that he doesn't have a strongest lineup. So I think if we don't have a great season next season, then he might be out the door. But I don't fire him if I was Wilkins.
Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely understand a lot of the Vanney controversy, the Vanney outtakes. It's similar to where I stand on the Sanabria thing. I definitely understand where all these negative things are coming from, but when you take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and look a little. Just be, long-sighted. Don't try not to be so short-sighted and, reactionary maybe is the word. But when you think of the big things and what he's done, already coming in 2021, again, I reiterate, just building up this team and the foundation of it to actually go ahead and succeed, find that stability. It takes time, but, what I love is a project. And I feel like he's, I feel like at least deserves to see it out. I definitely think a 3-year contract extension, for me, it felt like much. I would have been happy with, maybe a 1-year or 2-year, but I don't think you fire him. I think, you really shoot yourself in the foot as an organization to bring someone new and restart this whole project when we've spent the past 5 years, all in on this. And it's either do you want to go ahead and spend the next 2 years, after having built up to a certain point, or do you want to spend the next 2 years doing this, going up and down, starting and restarting? To me, that doesn't make sense. Again, I understand the claims for his job is football, at the end of the day, is results driven sport, but maybe we're a little bit blessed that we don't have relegation and we don't have the onus to make these type of reactionary up and down decisions. We look at Manchester United. I feel like we just spoke about Ten Hag, that situation. It's just this merry-go-round of restarting. Amorim is kind of finally maybe getting a little bit of grace, but everybody's already calling for his head. We have the luxury of not having to worry about relegation and really being able to trust that process, and it'd be foolish for me to not take the most of that privilege. So for me, it's Vanney in. And again, I do think I've written articles about this. I think we win another cup in 27. So, if you don't come at me, I'm the reason Vanney stayed and it's all my fault. But I think that it's just a project worth investing in.
I think we're winning a cup in 2026, but maybe I'm a
I
little
don't put
crazy.
it past this with Ricky. Absolutely.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but let me get my clipboard out on the little Amarine. Let me move some pieces around real quick on that while I'm watching a Grimsby Town shootout. Look,
Yeah, well,
I think you hit. Go ahead.
once you finish, I have one more thing to say about it. So you go.
I think you hit it on the head in the fact that, hey, we're in the deep end, guys. You know, if you want to pull the plug on this, it's going to be a long time before we're contenders again. In my opinion, when you have to have a new coach come in and gamble that that coach is even good, and given that that coach is good, if you know, let's say that that coach is good, it's a whole new system. It's a whole new system he has to implement into the team. He has to take out some of the roster pieces and really put his footprint, put his handprint on that team. That Greg Vanney, it's all over now, obviously. But when he inherited that team, look how long it took him to get some of those pieces out. That, you know, the Chris Klein administration and, you know, Guillermo Barcelotto, I know we haven't mentioned that name in a long time, but, you know, all the pieces that he's brought in throughout the years and left his stamp on that team. It took a long time. It took a long time, even from the Curtin, like Vanney inherited some of Curtin Alpha's mess still. You know, it runs real deep. So when you decide to sack a coach, it's not as easy as being like, hey, we've been bad this year, get out, like get the sack. But Vanney's building a track record. Vanney's starting to build a track record where now it's going to be, I believe this is his 6th season, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5th, and we made the playoffs twice. That's starting to become an issue. I say that where if next season we're not what we're supposed to be, yes, I think you pull the plug there, because this is next year is supposed to be progressively a big step forward after this season. You don't have to win MLS Cup to keep your job if you're Vanney, in my opinion, next year. But you have to go. You have to get pretty darn close. You have to be contenders again, or at least in a home playoff spot, in my opinion, or close to that. So I think that there is starting to mount pressure on Greg Vanney and co. But you win MLS Cup, you get a year grace. It is what it is. There is ways to get out of that contract, I've been told. So I don't think it'd be impossible for the Galaxy to wiggle out of that one. But good conversation to have there. We're going to move into some Joseph Paintsil news.
I got one last thing to
Oh, yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
Some wise words from the tab for the night. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. I'll just leave you guys with that.
Inspirational.
Yeah.
Inspirational. Wow. You got your wise philosopher tab over here. Love the insight. Joseph Paintsil, rumored to Getafe. Apparently there was nothing to this from Corner of the Galaxy. But according to sources, the bid was around $14 million US. Which honestly, maybe I'm a bit crazy on this. I take it if I'm the Galaxy, and I love Paintsil. I met the guy the other day. Don't tell him I said that, but don't tell him I said that I would take that offer, but I would, because I think that's more than fair. You make, you're talking about ROI, return on investment. That's a return on investment. He won you an MLS Cup, and he gets his move back to Europe. Getafe is a big club. Look, grain of salt, because this is just not going to happen, at least to Getafe. But, when it came to me that we rejected this, I was a bit surprised. Honestly, because if I was the Galaxy and I got that call, I would be like, hey, Paintsil, I'll fly you. I'll fly you to the air, or I'll drive you to the airport. I'll fly your plane personally. Actually, I love Joseph Paintsil, but for that amount of money, I think it's a no-brainer. Had some injury issues throughout the times. Hasn't been that good this year. I would say he's been our best DP, but the bar is so low. I think he'll be good next year. Saying that, I think he will be good next year. I think he benefits the most out of Ricky Puig returning with the ball. He needs some of these passes that only Ricky Puig can do. He needs some of these balls that only Ricky is able to provide him with. No Diddy. So I think it's very important to consider that. But Tab, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Joseph Paintsil benefits a lot from Ricky Puig. And while I would also take this offer, I do want to see Joseph Paintsil, Ricky Puig, and Gabriel Pek won that season. If it does work out, then I think we keep him for another year after that. Obviously, Vicky Pooch is through 27, Paintsil's 27, and Pek's 28. Their contracts run through, so we have at least minimum 2 seasons left with them if they run through their contracts. So
Yeah.
why not give it one last go?
Last dance. Andrew?
Yep.
Yeah, really interesting. But I guess just reiterating what you guys have said, I feel like Ricky Puig really is the key to unlocking, the other two killer Ps. Besides just, his incredible passing, it's the space that he creates. He has this, Maradona, Messi-esque, gravitational pull where he just pulls other players to him. And when you put Pek and you put Paintsil in open space, they finish there, the killer piece. It's really, really special. But when you cut that out of them and you put the onus on them to create, it's just a whole different play style, really. They've had to learn, how to play that way. I don't know if they're ever going to get around to it this year, but it's just, not necessarily what them signed them for. When Kuntz and Vanney brought them in, it was to play along Ricky Puig and to, make the most of those spaces, of those passes. When you don't have that, it's like, cutting off a horse's legs. Of course, you're not going to win any races. So really, really, interesting. Very interesting now that we have, potential offers for both of our DPs. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know if you take any of them. The way the Galaxy are, I don't think they're going to next year. I feel like we go into 2026 with the same DPs. Maybe 27 we start seeing some changes. But yeah, I feel like the idea behind a Galaxy back office is if they're getting, $14-18 million offers now after this season, imagine what type of offers we're going to get once Pooh just they're feeding them and making them look fantastic. So I think they're just waiting out for, some more ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. Although there wasn't much to this rumor, maybe another European team comes knocking in the future. It certainly seems like last year or next year is the last for our DP core. I think at least one of them gets turned over going into the 2027 season. Most likely, I would say, is Pek. I've always seen Paintsil as a guy that's going to be here the next 3 to 5 years. We talk about the fact that he seems like a Galaxy, as long as those legs keep running at the speeds that it is, it seems like he could be a potential Galaxy lifer and might as well if he's putting up 2024 production. But that's also very reliant on a provider. So maybe if Ricky Puig there's a real possibility Joseph Paintsil is the last of that DP core standing. Let's just say that I think Pek will be the first to go. I'd be very surprised. I think Pek's going in the summer of next year. Maybe that's a bit ambitious from me. I think he's going to start the season out pretty hot, and he's going to end up going to Europe. And for more on that, we got another rumor that ended up being debunked by Corner of the Galaxy. So cheers on that. We can't even act like these are real. Pek to Lyon, Olympic Lyon, Lyonnais. Apparently made a 16 million pound, not euro, transfer offer for Gabriel Pek that was denied by the LA Galaxy. And for translation, that roughly equates to 21 million US dollars. It's a big team in France. I think they're a Champions League team as well, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Europa League team. I know they're always competing in Europe. Look, I know, this isn't real, but it goes without saying that people are calling Will Kuntz's phone and saying, hey, about that Gabriel Pek guy, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's not a stretch to say that, even if it's not that team, it's somebody out there is calling about Gabriel Pek. And, I think it's a matter of time with him. Would you guys, let's play in hypothetical land. Would you guys have accepted this transfer offer if you were the LA Galaxy? Tab?
I'm gonna say no. I think you gotta run it back with Ricky Puig next year. I think it's automatic. I think the sports betting in me is saying you keep it one more season because you're gonna get a higher profit next season because you got Ricky back. He's known to feed Pek and Paintsil, and I think that's what Galaxy front office is betting on, that Ricky Puig will increase our transfer fees for the future and himself. So I think Galaxy are waiting off on that, and who knows if it doesn't work out. You have a really good front three, or with Ricky, you have a really good front three going to next season, have a chance to win another cup. So why not? Don't just throw out Pek for the money
Yeah.
right now when you know you can get more from him.
Andrew?
Yeah, I flip flop on this all day. When the news first broke, I saw this take on Twitter that maybe influenced me a lot. But someone was saying like, why not take this offer? You get your return on your investment, and you really allow yourself the time to start planning for a replacement. And at the time that made sense to me. But just thinking about it, especially talking with you guys now, I don't think it makes sense from a financial perspective. Tab mentioned it. We talked about it with the Paintsil discussion, but if we're getting these calls now without Pek and these guys playing horribly, imagine the kind of offers we're going to get later on. And, put yourself for a second in the shoes of other clubs. They know the talent that we have. And Will Kuntz, at the end of the day, he knows the talent that we have. And they're thinking that maybe we're feeling a little bit desperate, looking to change things immediately and trying to take advantage of this off year and, maybe lowball us a little bit for these guys because they just haven't been performing. But I think Kuntz, again, at the end of the day, he knows his guys. He knows what he has. And yeah, he's it's going to punt start it. Hold on until the value goes back up. So I think it's smart to not do it now.
I'm gonna play the player side a bit here. I don't disagree with either one of your takes. I think that Pek's value could very much, and maybe it's a bit of a gamble, but I think Pek's value can be higher than 21 million. They probably got offers in the winter higher than 21 million for Gabriel Pek. Vasco has a 30% sell-on clause. MLS takes 5%. You start to break it down and you realize that the Galaxy in total wouldn't, $21 million is a lot, but you start to factor some things in and you could see why the Galaxy would want to drive the price up. Now, we got a question in the chat. This is what I'm going into. If I'm Pek, I'm telling the LA Galaxy that, hey, thank you for your time, but I want to go. Thank you for your time. I love this club. I love everything about it. You could tell he loves to be in Los Angeles, but he needs to go to Europe, I think, at this point in his career. If I'm him, he came over here. Initially, when he came over, he was disappointed that he wasn't going to Europe initially and that he did go to Los Angeles instead of European team. Lyon compete in Champions League or Europe, wherever they are right now. They're in Europe. They're in a European competition. I'm sure Pek wants to play in Europe, in Europa League, Champions League. He wants to play those big games. And this is also not like you saw Liverpool rumors. I'm sorry, I'm a Liverpool fan. He would never crack the team. He wouldn't crack the reserves. He wouldn't crack the U23 team. No, just kidding. Kind of. I love Pek. Okay. All right, whatever, Tab.
You didn't go further down.
Okay. Whatever, bro. I love Pek, but I think if you're Will Kuntz, you do the respectable thing. If this was a real offer, which it's not, you do the respectable thing and say, hey, what do you want to do? Let me know. You've been a trooper. You've stayed this season. You've done your job. Although I think he's been underperforming this year and definitely not playing to the caliber he was last year. I think Pek would, entertain and, if the Galaxy accepted it, he would be so thrilled to go to France, I'm sure. And maybe a league that suits him better than like the Prem. So I think the Bundesliga fits Pek. Something about the Bundesliga and Gabriel Pek just makes sense to me. But my Leverkusen could use a good player right now. But I think Pek deserves he deserves a move somewhere else. And if I'm him, I'm probably, maybe not forcing my way out like Isak, but I'm like, hey, just do me a solid here. Just do me a solid, accept the trend. You guys get your return on investment. Everybody leaves happy from this. Just do me a favor. And in turn, people think highly of the Galaxy about it. People will look at the Galaxy and be like, hey, they're not a team that, holds their players there beyond what they want. They allow their players to be a launch pad to Europe. And if you really want to establish yourself as a respectable club, and when your next Gabriel Pek that you look at from South America, or wherever it may be, whenever they start thinking about if the Galaxy is their right move, they can look at Gabriel Pek and see the proof in the pudding. So if I'm the Galaxy, I'm leaving it up to Peck, but I certainly see both of your guys' points on that. I think if I'm the FO and it's all in my hands, I'm waiting a little bit for that value to increase. But yeah, let's dive in here to the Galaxy versus Orlando City FC. Home game, supporters groups returned. We talked about that. The Galaxy peel off a 2-1 win here. If you saw my live reaction that I posted on my Instagram story, when Orlando scored that equalizer, I wasn't all too sure that this game was going to go in the Galaxy's direction. Marco Reus opened up the scoring in the 9th minute. We talk about Gabriel Peck. What a run. What a run. That gave me some, mini Minnesota flashbacks from what he did in the playoffs last year. Tore them a new one. Did to Orlando and allowed Royce really to have a tap in, maybe one of the easiest finishes of his career. Marco Royce, obviously, you have to be there and score it. He did. But what a run from Paintsil. At one of the assists of the season, in my opinion, from Gabriel Peck, just that run from start to finish, weaving in and out of Orlando City's back line, making them look like fools, really. Really something that we haven't seen him fully have this year is that end product. And it certainly seemed to be the case here. And then Ojeda in the 60th minute, coming out 15 minutes after the start of the second half. Orlando City, they hit the post twice in this game. They look so threatening. The post can be your best friend sometimes, and it was on the night. It could be your best or worst friend, and it was on the night for the Galaxy. One just landed in Novak Mijovic's hands right after it hit the post. That was funny. But Ojeda scores in the 60th minute, and I was freaking out because, man, our back line's so atrocious. It's frustrating to watch. And the body language is probably even more frustrating, how everybody just throws their hands up. And even the guy who's at fault for the goal throws his hands up and starts pointing fingers. And it's like, hey, take a seat. Let's watch the replay of that because you were actually the problem. Ojeda, 60th minute, equalizes before a Joseph Paintsil. We talked about the two rumors. Maybe they heard the noise. Probably not, though. I don't think they pay attention to us. Joseph Paintsil, 67th minute, game winner, incredible strike. Pedro Galese stood on his head, fair play. There's some chances the Galaxy had that he just absolute wonder save, class goalkeeper. Man, I wish we could have a guy like him on our team. Although I know he's taking up some salary for them and he's a bit older, but what a guy. Galaxy win 2-1. You guys, analysis in the match. We'll start with Andrew this time. Sorry, Tab.
Yeah, I might go on a bit long, but I, before coming on, I went and rewatched, the key plays. Really, I watched maybe 60 minutes of the game, but just, a lot to like. It looked a lot different than that Seattle game. I feel like having Garces back in the squad, even, not at 100, there was a bit of a difference there. But I felt like the really key thing for the Galaxy was the midfield, and namely Edwin Cerrillo. He's just such a leader to me. He captained in the Colorado game, but to me, he, played like a captain, especially alongside Winder and even Fagundes. For me, the best example of this is, at the goal, Novak Mijovich throws a leading ball out to Nelson. Almost forgot his name. Throws that leading ball out to Nelson, and this is right after an Orlando attack. They have 6 players, at least in shot in our box. So the press is there, not too many options. But then you see Edwin Cerrillo making a little bit of a dummy run and pointing to Winder to go ahead and take up the space behind him, just orchestrating, literally telling Winder what to do. Winder takes up that space, does really well, composed touch, composed pack back to Cerrillo, who opens it up to Yamane. Great first-time pass, and then Yamane just cooks his defender, sets off Peck, and, we score a brilliant goal. But, it comes from Cerrillo, it comes from Winder breaking that press, unlocking Orlando. And, the main guy you can, give plaudits to is Cerrillo, literally orchestrating Winder. There was a lot of moments throughout that game where you see him pointing, indicating Winder where to be. And when Winder had that support, he was a brilliant piece, I thought. One of his better performances. And, we talked about the midfield a little bit earlier on. Winder is a player who I think is starting to come into his own. In the last 5 games, he's played 239 minutes, averaging 92% pass accuracy. He's, this is a 21-year-old player starting to learn, feel a little bit more comfortable. But, with someone like Reus, who's starting to, he's a young guy as well, but take this Ankh status, you could say, in a team, and just having that experience of knowing where to put players and knowing where to be, it's really allowed him to blossom. So massive credits to Reus in this game. There's a lot of these moments where the midfield, just did their thing. Nobody in the midfield, including Figueres, had less than 90% pass accuracy. They're all just so tidy, so composed, help us keep possession. And that was the key. Orlando's a team who can hurt you, especially in transition. Really talented midfielders and wingers. Their striker, Muriel, is fantastic. So that was a big part of it, keeping them off of the ball and, not allowing too many situations where they can hurt us, as we saw in the goal, for example. They prevented a lot of that throughout the 90 minutes. So massive credit to the midfield for me. And, the defense is also an interesting situation. We see Garces come off at halftime, injured. He can't go on. And we see Rindov come back on. You can maybe, point a finger at him a little bit, not getting tighter towards the goal. But throughout the match, I felt like he had a really strong performance, followed up that really strong performance in Colorado. And that type of competition, that type of energy is what the Galaxy need. They need some stronger defenders. So love to see him doing that as well. All in all, good performance. I loved, the second goal as well, doing the opposite of what Orlando did, succeeding in pressing them inside the box. Pek goes on a little bit of a run, doesn't get the shot, but there's that fight there to keep the play alive. They're diving in, going in, getting stuck in for every ball, and that straight up created the goal. Sanabria involved there, helping create that goal as well. Nelson with the assist, but Sanabria there with, helping with the recovery. The ball goes off him, and we score, and we win the game. So just really big plaudits to the midfield, to the defense, to Paintsil for scoring. It's what you want to see. It's what we've needed for a long time. And, thank God we got it. We got that CCC spot. It's all we have, but when we needed to deliver at the very last moment, we did.
Tab.
Yeah, I think it was a great first half. We got the early goal, and it was almost like we're in cruise control for that whole first half. Obviously, it was a 2 p.m. game, and it was like 90 degrees out, so you could see both teams were taking a toll on the heat. And then when it came for the second half, all was good. Obviously, Miro Garces came out for Christian Dock, but I thought had another solid performance. And Vanney talked about him afterward. He's going to have his chances. He earned himself a chance in this game from his performance in Colorado. And he's going to get chances throughout the season, and he's going to have a chance to play for a spot for next year's team. But talking about their goal, it was right after Marco Reus came out, and he brought on Julian Alde, and we started to move to a 5-back. And when I saw it happen, we conceded, 6-7 minutes right after we changed from the 4-back to a 5-back. I was like, oh no, it's over. The 5-back is just a curse. We've seen it this season. We went to a 5-back versus New York, and we conceded 7. I'm like, I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, oh geez, this is not gonna be good. They hit the post a couple times right after that. I'm like, yeah, it's over. There's no chance we're getting a CCC spot. And out of nothing, Paintsil comes from a good press, a back press from the attack, and Paintsil gets the ball, great turn, leash Schlegel in the dust, and he finishes it. It was a solid finish, clinical finish from him. And then the tide turned again, and we looked like the better team. Obviously, Yamane had that one shot that it looked like Gillespie was in the goal when he saved it. I don't know how we don't have goal line technology in 2025 yet. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, it was a great game. We needed to win that game for CCC, and I think the season is a successful season because we got CCC. I will not be in the battle, please.
Yes,
Not
you
again.
will.
Not again.
Oh boy, in the chat, very interesting, man. You are. Yeah, I mean, I thought Edwin Cerrillo was everywhere. He had one bad turnover that people will just take that little small sample size and be like, oh, he's a bum. He's terrible. He's worse than Sanabria. Bro, we need to calm down. We need to calm down because Edwin Cerrillo's class. Just please, I encourage you all. One of these Galaxy games, just focus on Edwin Cerrillo for one game and just watch his movement. Watch the ground he covers. everything he orchestrates in the Galaxy's midfield, he's had to pick up so much slack. More of a job than, he's had so much duty that he shouldn't really be having right now. So I love to see his performance, commanded the midfield. And I think just a Paintsil, and we talk about our DP performances not being it this year. This was it. This is what we need more of. Now, if we would have had these performances, maybe, I don't know, 30 games ago, maybe this season would have been a bit better than it's been in Leagues Cup, MLS, CONCACAF, you name it. I really think our DP performances have been lacking, and this was an excellent display by both of them. Fagundes, I thought, had a good game as well. We need to give him some credit. I think he's done very good in the midfield. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, our back line, Orlando has a really good attack, and our back line held its own. I can't lie. Novak Mitrovic came up big when he was needed this game. So yeah, all credit where credit's due. I think the Galaxy really outplayed Orlando. There's no debating it there. And I know Orlando's had to travel a lot. By the way, some side news on this is the fact that next year this tournament will take place in Mexico, as well as the United States. So that's important to note there. And with this win, the LA Galaxy have officially clinched CONCACAF Champions Cup. We are back, baby. I'm so glad that the Galaxy got this out of this absolute treacherous season. We were able to get a CONCACAF Champions Cup spot. What does this mean to this team, this club, this organization, these players? What does it mean, Tab?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this quote straight out of Vanney's mouth. Galaxy deserves. Don't look at me weird for that. Galaxy deserve to be in CCC. This is where the club belongs, and I can agree more. If we want to be the biggest team in North America, we have to be in this competition. And now that we have Ricky Puig back, and hopefully we'll see how the winter goes. Hopefully, I have Pek and Paintsil still in the squad. I think we can make a good run at it. And I think if we have a good winter off season and we get some good players to replace the ones that are coming out, I think we could be a real contender for this cup.
Andrew.
Yeah, gonna copy, Tab's homework again. It's just, what the Galaxy deserve. It's, the minimum for this club. We talk about, when you think Galaxy, you think of one of, if not the best team in North America, and to not be in continental competition, to be able to prove that you're one of the best, it's, it's a disgrace when you think of, again, just the history, everything that's behind this club. A big achievement to get this in the worst season of all time. That's not controversial. It's genuinely the worst season of Galaxy history. So to be in continental competition when, the vast majority of MLS clubs aren't, I think that says something. We just about got over the line, but if we can do it, with our legs broken, without an ACL, let's say, then I'm really excited for what the future holds, especially, if we get these, the signings right. This transfer window is massively important. I think one of the most important ones we've had in a while. So really excited to see what we can get done. We should have some room to operate. We should look a lot different, but I think for the better. And, it was really bummed not to see Ricky Puig in CONCACAF this year. So, really stoked to see it for next year. I said it, earlier on in the season on our other podcast, but with Ricky Puig and his team, 2024 Galaxy, I don't think there's many better teams in the continent. So I really think we, have a valid argument to make in that competition. Really, really stoked for what we can do, what the Killer Peas are going to do, abroad. So really, really happy we got that. I don't know how much worse I would have felt if we didn't after the season. I was already pretty down in the dumps, but that would have been a massive, massive failure. So the Galaxy did what they had to do. I don't know if I'd call it a success, but they barely scraped by with that C-, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, oh man, I don't think I would call it a successful season. I think this is a good takeaway from it. I think this prevents it from being an F minus season. And really it's something where you could look at and memes over here. He keeps popping out, tapping memes. But I think this is something that you could take away from this year and be like, hey, the Galaxy got something out of this season, in the worst season in club history. There's something. There's something we could take away. It makes next off season a little less short, which I think is great for the club too, because you don't have to sit there and sulk over how bad this year was. And I'm sure some of the players will enjoy an extended off season, like Joseph Paintsil, I'm sure screaming for one, because we didn't really have one last year. So you know, I'm sure the club's going to be very much looking forward to that. I just think right now, it's a failure of a season, regardless. I'm going to be a little harsh. I think if we won, maybe winning Campeones Cup, I'll give it like a C minus. But right now, it's in the D. It's a flat D. It's a flat D in my opinion. I really think that the Galaxy need to do better going forward to build a sustainable club. This transfer window is a legacy window for Will Kuntz, in my opinion, because this will really show. This will really show that, hey, you were complaining about cap space all this time. You got it now. You got your cap space. You got everything you wanted. You know, you could decide what to do to Nascimento. Maybe Ade goes to Europe or back to, South America, whatever that may be. You have flexibility, you have space, you're able to do things. You have 2 buyouts now. If you want to just pull the plug on Yamane and whoever, like Yamane and Yoshida or something like that. Whatever you want to do, if you're the LA Galaxy, you have the space now to do it. Yeah, you're able to operate within, you're able to operate more comfortably. So I think with that being said, it's time to prove it. It's time to prove that we're a serious club this window. We can't go into CONCACAF and get embarrassed. I can't stress it enough. It just can't happen. We have to go into CONCACAF, and I'm sure Ricky Puig, who will be making his CONCACAF debut, is going to be as motivated as ever to just start bagging goals in this competition and be back, really. And maybe this changes the Galaxy stance on if they want Ricky Puig back at all this year. If, we're going to have even more games next year, and that's going to put even more stress on his knee, and just really be able to build into the off season. Or maybe from the opposite perspective, the Galaxy want to get him ready for CONCACAF. So they want to make sure that he plays a few games if he's 100% up for it. But, regardless of what it may be, we're back. And yeah, even David Beckham, we got a Galaxy Runs LA post here. David Beckham with the long face. After Miami just got absolutely trounced in the Leagues Cup final. He's still a G at heart. He could put on that little Miami gimmick, but that he bleeds blue, white, and gold. And will always have a special place in his heart. He loves the club. He loves the LA Galaxy. So, yeah, I'm glad to be back there. In CONCACAF Champions Cup, I'm sure the club is as well. Final thing here, we'll before we go into the game preview, just Marco Reus, man. As much as I think he's just going to retire after this year, we're milking every last bit of Marco Reus out. By the way, whoever in the MLS content creators gave me access to the little Canva designs has absolutely revolutionized my life. But yeah, Marco Reus, 28 games, 8 goals, 9 assists. In a season that's been atrocious for the LA Galaxy. This is all competitions, by the way. In a season that's been atrocious for the LA Galaxy, man, he's been there. He's been there through the thick of it. So I'm really glad that Marco Reus has stepped up, because there was a lot of talk about, hey, maybe we didn't need him last year. Maybe he wasn't that important to our MLS title race or to our title charge. And then the start of the season, he was injured a bit, and people were like, oh, the Galaxy were close to being done with him. All things considered, man, Marco Reus. Andrew, you got your analysis of this man.
Yeah, Unca's doing his thing.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest, thing to say about Marco Reus is that when he's healthy, he is still one of, he's the player we all grew up watching. He definitely has that talent. Class is permanent, you could say. But it's, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, he just wasn't healthy. He was playing through injuries or not playing because of injuries. And we saw a totally different version of Marco Reus this year once he finally got the time to rest and show up and, show himself, enjoy playing again. So it's just super glad to see him enjoying football, not playing through the pain, just being able to play freely. So stoked on what, he did this season. You could, I think, absolutely argue one of the few bright spots in the Galaxy team this year. So just, grateful for his contribution, for, not paying attention to the noise outside and just doing his thing, putting his head down and working. And, at the end of the day, I think it's time to glaze him a little bit.
Yes, it is.
He's a special player. I do feel we're lucky to see him in a Galaxy shirt.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very, FIFA move, but one of those that I feel like has worked out. So I'm grateful for Reus. Just special player. And again, I'm excited for next year. He has another year on his contract, I believe. Seeing him along Reus, I mean, that's filthy. So Reus, Pek, Nasi, the killer peas, it could be pretty special, that front six, let's say. So looking forward to 2026.
Yeah, man, just one of those players that you look at and you're like, wow, I'm so grateful they ended up wearing our colors and not like LAFC's or whatever. Class player, and a lot of people are like, the Galaxy need to respond to the Sun signing. This was them responding to the Reus signing, in my opinion, because Reus is another player with that big pedigree. He's just a legend in Europe, and I'm glad that he wears our colors. But Tab, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously people are coming for his head at the start of the season. There's some Galaxy pages that I will not name that were trying to get him out. And he's came and he's proven that he is an MLS starter. He is worth every penny that the Galaxy have spent. And, I've had my doubts about him at the start of the season, but he cleared those pretty early on. And I've been Marco Reus's, I guess, conductor of, or Marco Reus fan club. I'm one of the people in that club. So
Head glazer.
I was trying to think of a word that wasn't glazer, so now I get clipped. But anyways, I think that he's been great. I can't say a bad word about him. Maybe just injury prone, but he's been known for that his whole career, and I think he's got better at the Galaxy. I think that you haven't seen him miss huge amounts of times. Obviously, he's missed a couple games here and there, but he's been consistently there for the club this season at least. And hopefully, I know he came out with an injury yesterday, but at the game versus Orlando, Vanney said it wasn't anything serious. So hopefully, we can see him through a stretch, and hopefully, we see him and Ricky Puig team up for a couple times at the end of the season before we get CONCACAF next season.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he is under contract one more year, but I think it is a real question mark if he ends up playing out that last year. Kind of with his injury track record. Maybe it depends on how the end of the season goes and looking into next year. But he loves LA. I'm sure he's going to live here after retirement, probably. You could tell he posts on his Instagram all the time. He's in love with this city. So much better than St. Louis. No disrespect to anybody out there. But, it's just not really comparable. We got, he's always at Manhattan Beach. Remaining games for the LA Galaxy season. We got 8 of them, all competitions. You got that Campeones Cup final October 1st. Biggest game we have left, probably the only meaningful one left. But, we got Minnesota Decision Day, Dallas back-to-back. Should be an interesting one. But next one, Houston Dynamo, LA Galaxy versus Houston Dynamo. This will be Saturday. This was a replay of the postponed one. It will kick off at 5:30 p.m. from Shell Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. Let's hope that there's nothing. If you saw the pitch conditions last time, let's hope that's not the case. I doubt it will be, but I saw thunderstorms Sunday, so let's hope that doesn't trickle over a day early. But LA Galaxy take on the Houston Dynamo. What do we need to win this match, Tab?
I think we need an early goal. We've seen it versus Orlando. We were in cruise control after that goal. I think if we pushed a little harder and got that second goal in the first half, we could hit cruise control in the second half. But I think we got to be consistent with how we play. I think that obviously Nascimento is going to be out. Greg Vanney said that it's looking a little bit more serious than they thought, but he's been getting better and progressing well. So we're going to be without Nascimento again. So we're going to see...
Yeah. And Paintsil.
We might see Barry. Yeah, no Barry. Marco Reus definitely probably shouldn't be starting. No, I'm saying we probably will be starting Barry.
Oh.
because Marco Reus, obviously the season's gone. You don't want to risk him in Houston. I think you see a Barry start. You may see Ramirez start. He's out the doghouse. So it's going to be a heavily rotated lineup. You probably see Harbor Miller starting up top, and I'm all for that. So it's going to be a tough game. Houston's always tough. Obviously, conditions are going to be like they always are in Houston. So we'll see what happens.
Andrew?
Yeah, no pause, but I'm going to take the words out of Tab's mouth again. It's going to be a rotated squad. I do think we see Harbor Miller. I do think we see Parente. I do think we're going to see the players I feel like we saw in Colorado. And to me, that's a good thing. These are young players who deserve to showcase their talent. You saw in that Colorado game, they dominated. And it's just the more we play them, I think it's going to be better for the Galaxy, the squad as a whole. I wish we would have played them more this year because I feel like something we were missing is the competition in the lineup. Just people were kind of reluctant, kind of maybe laying back on their heels, knowing that there was one starting 11 and a bunch of academy guys. So when you don't have that, the competition, I mean, we have what we saw this year, just not the best performances, the team not coming out and competing for games, competing for minutes. But players like Chris Rindolph, players like Harbor Miller, players like Parende, they're going to come in and they're going to just, do their thing. They're playing, to showcase their talent, to maybe earn a move or to earn more minutes, or they're going to, light a fire under the bellies of these other players in the Galaxy team who suddenly their job is a little bit more at risk, especially now at the end of the season. The Galaxy are looking to make a lot of changes. So what I want to see is motivation. I want to see that spark we saw against Pachuca, the spark we saw against Colorado. It'll be an interesting one. Houston fighting. It's going to be a massive, massive game for them. 3 points behind, I believe it's San Jose in ninth place. So they need to win. They're going to want to score a lot of goals on us. But, I think the kids are going to, do their thing. I'm a big fan of Rindolph, big fan of Miller. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the kids do their thing, and I'm glad that they have these opportunities to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Harbor Miller is another interesting one that I'm really excited to see. I love Harbor Miller's game. I think he's electric, and this is another chance. In my opinion, let the young guys, let everybody that has a future at the Galaxy, potentially even those in contention, anybody that doesn't have a future with this club anymore, I'm not concerned about, quite frankly. I don't think Miki Amane does. I feel like you really have to get some of the people a shot. And I think the most valuable thing that you can get out of this season, we talked about 8 remaining games. I think the most valuable thing you could get, besides a CONCACAF spot and a potential trophy, is some guys that could be solid depth pieces next year. You can figure that out right now. Instead of waiting next season and seeing if anybody breaks through and taking a shot, you have 8 trial runs right now. You have 8 trial runs to see which guys are up to MLS level. Which guys can you count on in your roster as bargains next year for whatever they're making salary cap wise, whatever it may be. You need those type of pieces. You need those Isaiah Parentes. You need those Mauricio Cuevas, those Harbor Millers, all those people that can be just solid depth pieces. Cuevas is the starter right now. That's to be seen if it is going forward. But I think this is the time to show out, or maybe a guy like Novak Mitrovic builds up his transfer value and goes to Europe or wherever he may go in the winter, depending on where the value and interest is. The Galaxy are going to be looking at some of those things going forward. That being said, starting lineup wise, I think Novak Mitrovic gets the start in net again. Julian Ade left back. I think it will be Rindov and Yoshida center backs. I don't think you see Garces. Garces came out last game with injury at halftime. Cuevas right back, I think, is the logical pick there. I think you see Cerrillo, Sanabria, and and Fagundes in the midfield. And then a front 3 of Harbor Miller, Miguel Berry up top, and out wide, Gabriel Pek. Harbor and Pek out wide. So do you guys disagree with anything in there?
I'd start Winder over Sanabria. I think Winder had a great game in Orlando, so I think he deserves another start, and he's earned one. Other than that, I think, yeah, Harvard Mill up top. I think maybe you could see Ramirez over Barry, but I think one of those two are definitely starting up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, without beating me to the punch, I'd probably want to see Winder in there as well.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. I don't know why I blinked on him. Sanabria, I low-key like as much as he's been criticized on this podcast. Let's find out if he's worth that $5 million or if we need to urgently do something about that. That's kind of my take on it. But yeah, Winder, maybe Winder, give Fagundes a rest, even, and put Winder in the mix. I've liked what I've seen from him. So that's what I would do if I was Greg Vanney. I agree with you guys on that one. So yeah, I think it should be interesting to see what the Galaxy do going into Houston. It's going to be hot. If it's not thunderstorms, it's going to be really, really hot. Historically, we don't win here. It's just everything's set on paper to be really bad faring for the Galaxy. We talked about the fact Andrew was saying that they're on the playoff line. They're right there with San Jose. They need goal difference. You need goal difference. You need wins. And the home games are the ones that you just have to win. It sets up for the perfect storm for an LA Galaxy loss here. I don't think I can go any other way. I'm going to go 3-1 Houston Dynamo. And I think our one goal scorer will be, I'm going to say Gabriel Pek. I think Pek's going to stat pad a bit at the end of the season to build up his stats a bit. But Ghana with Paintsil and Ghana, by the way, on international duty. So prediction, Galaxy runs LA.
I think it's going to be a 2-0 loss. I think with the turnover of our attacking force, I think we're not going to see much attacking wise. And Houston, we always are not the greatest. We'll just put it that way. So I don't think we get a goal. And I think we're going to leak a couple goals, maybe 1-0. But I think I'm going to go 2-0.
All right. Andrew, prediction.
Yeah, I don't know if I see a win, but I'm not sure if I'm as pessimistic either. I may be, relying too heavily or giving too much credit to the performance in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Arguably not the best team, not the highest standard to measure, but I really, really enjoyed what I saw from that rotated squad. I thought that's a team that can compete in MLS. And, if we field those younger guys, I think they're going to do their thing. Again, I've said this the whole podcast. For me, it's about fight. That energy, these young kids have it. And that's what you need to compete in this league. When people think of the MLS, they think of, back and forth, intensity. It's just having that energy. When the Galaxy aren't rolling over, I feel like they're a good team. The young kids give us that. And, I agree with the lineup you put out, Peyton. So with that, I think it'll be a 1-1. Not quite a win, not quite a loss.
Galaxy memes, are you there or do we have to summon you? All right, he's here. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, great insight, honestly, from Galaxy Memes. Lovely to have him on, as always. So, yeah, we have a draw and 2 Galaxy losses here. The Galaxy will travel up to Houston on Saturday. Kickoff time will probably be 5:40. Not sure at the moment if we'll have a live watch along for it. We'll keep you posted on that. But if we do, it'll be on our socials. If not, it's not. We will have a podcast as usual on Tuesday. We went well over. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Andrew, for showing up as always. Much appreciated. Always welcome on any time. And yeah, where can people find you, Andrew?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Always a blast. Really, really great talking with you guys. If the chat didn't know, these guys know ball. So, keep on tuning in. I love the community we got going on here. Really like what you guys got going. So keep it up. As for me, you could find my stuff on Los Angeles Sports Nation is where you could find my articles. We got stuff coming out weekly. We'll have something coming out. Today's Tuesday. On Thursday, probably recapping this win and probably recapping a lot of what we talked about here in terms of the plans for the future. So keep an eye out for that. You can subscribe totally for free. Get my stuff in your inbox. You can find me on Twitter at NGFAndrew on the screen there. I'm on Instagram at Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera. I made sure to write it out for our gringos in the chat. So, be sure to check us out there. We got clips from press conferences. But yeah, if you want to check out some coverage straight from the press box, that's where you can find me. Appreciate you guys.
Of course, as always. Tab?
Yeah, a little bit more simple. I'm just Galaxy Runs LA on TikTok and Instagram.
As for myself, I am LA Galaxy _Buzz on Instagram. Everyone make sure to show some love to Nuestra Galaxia. I typed it out in the chat. Make sure to show your love. Always appreciated. Thank you guys in the chat. Make sure to drop if you're not subscribed, subscribe and like the stream. Thank you all very much for tuning